That is the message from the University of Houston as new COVID concerns crop up ahead of the fall semester. U of H and other colleges hope it can be managed if everyone does their part, but some parents are not so sure. Jason Miles is live from U of H tonight with the story for us. Jason?
Hey there, Mia. Yeah, the University of Houston sent a email out to students, faculty, and staff just this afternoon, reminding them that COVID, specifically the Delta variant, is definitely nothing to ignore. Fall classes begin 1 month from today at the University of Houston, and like many other campuses, full capacity is planned despite a rise in COVID cases.
And of course, the number one intervention is vaccination.
Dr. Stephen Spann is founding dean of UH's College of Medicine and VP for Medical Affairs, and signed this letter sent to students, faculty, and staff today, reminding them of protocols, plus the effectiveness of vaccinations.
We're encouraging our students, our faculty and staff to get vaccinated if they haven't already. This is the way, the best way to prevent COVID.
70 miles north at Sam Houston State University,
the virus still moves around.
Stephen Berenzweig's vaccinated son will soon begin his freshman year with roommates whose status may be unknown to him, although residential students are required to sign this COVID-19 agreement form at move-in. That's according to the university's Residence Life Department.
A vaccinated person can be infected, they can be a carrier, and he could just as easily bring it back to his roommates.
Sam Houston State is also highly recommending vaccinations and encourages face coverings among those who have not gotten shots. But like other public colleges and even K-12 public schools, there is limited control beyond what state guidelines allow.
I think college campuses are going to turn into breeding grounds for the virus.
That's certainly something colleges definitely hope to avoid. And I got a statement late today from Sam Houston State University, which elaborated on its policy about informing students of other students' vaccination status. It's something they are not allowed to do. I also checked in with Texas A&M, Prairie View, Rice University, and some others. They all have very similar policies, and many of them are updating their COVID-related web pages. They have done it recently, or they will do it before the start of the fall semester. And many, like the U of H, have testing facilities like this little box you see behind me. Guys, back to you.
Hopeful for a safe semester. Jason Miles, thank you. If you still need your COVID vaccine, just text the word vaccine to 713-526-1111. We'll text you back with helpful links on how to sign up.
New video tonight. This